Okay, so I want to talk. You mentioned Putin and all this stuff before. So, just to bring it back to rosy topics, but we should talk about Ukraine a little bit, because I feel like the Ukraine thing has been so frustrating, because, once the October 7th happened, all of the attention went there and away from Ukraine. And I knew in the moment that it was going to be bad for Ukraine when this happened. Yeah. And right now, Zelensky's faced with a situation where, Trump is going to come in and immediately probably pull the plug. And Biden has very reluctantly loosened some of the reins, maybe. And he's going around, Zelensky is trying to, get the Europeans to help him. What's your take on what's happening there now? And what can we do to help him? And what do you think Biden should do right now to help?
The $4 trillion question.
Yeah.
What is Joe Biden doing?
Well, he's not going to do it, but what should he be doing?
I think continuing down the list of things, they're very slowly working their way down as fast as possible. To spend out the money that's already been appropriated and is sitting in a pile somewhere, and to frankly dispatch stuff to Ukraine that we should have sent them as excess defense articles on like the second day of the war. I mean, these anti-personnel mines that were just authorized for transfer to Ukraine, those mines and the cluster munitions that we keep in our arsenal. And of course, these are very controversial weapons because they spray things at people or tanks to blow them up. And many of them don't blow up. Ours are okay. Other people's manufacture, not so good. And they stay as unexploded ordnance, and you have to clean them up afterwards. And nobody likes unexploded ordnance in farmland for the most part. Like, obviously, these things are controversial. But the reason the United States never signed the conventions against these weapons is for one reason. Because we knew we were going to have to fight armies in land wars like Russia and fucking North Korea. And so if someone is fighting a land war with Russia, all of those weapons, which we don't produce anymore and will not use in any situation except fighting a land war with Russia, should go to the army fighting the land war with Russia. Like, why was this ever fucking hard? And the slowness with which these decisions were made, and the number of times you heard the Secretary of Defense and others say things to the effect of, we have assessed that at this phase of the war, the Ukrainians don't need this weapon. Well, how many of your cousins are dead? I mean, it's just the way the math has been done in the decision-making on this is absolutely fucking flawed and based on 30 years of getting the Kremlin fucking wrong. And it is not just this administration. I am not just dumping on these people, although these same people who thought the reset was a good idea and have never had to own it because in between we had Trump and it was all chaos, chaos, chaos. So there was absolutely no assessment of how bad the Obama administration's foreign policy was. And it was. Terrible. It was bad. I don't care how much you liked Obama or his domestic legacy.
To Crimea. Pan to Crimea. Cut to
absolutely
Crimea.
Absolutely an abominable foreign policy. And we never have had to own that. And the same people who talk about that are like, oh, they're writing books about Hong Kong freedom. And now they're talking about Ukraine. Shut up. Like, shut up. You have nothing to contribute to this conversation. And we are still living in all the parties for the most part. There are very few singular individuals who have removed themselves from this box of Kremlin smoke and mirrors in the way that before really only John McCain had, and understand what we're facing. But all of our calculation is still based on the wrong assessment of Russia, its intentions, its goals, that has guided our policy since the 90s. And it was all wrong. It was all wrong. Like, it was just illusion. And we're still believing the Russian illusion and making stupid decisions based on the wrong assessment. And that is an oversimplified way of explaining a very complex topic. But everything we've done since 6 fucking months before the February 2022 invasion, when we knew it was going to happen, which was nothing, we did nothing to stop it, has been wrong. And that is a body count of Ukrainians that, like, let's just leave the almost million dead Russians aside. Like, the body count of Ukrainians in this war and Ukrainian civilians is something we will have to account for someday. And I would really like it to not continue to climb so quickly. And that means sending all the stuff to Ukraine and sending everything we can before the end of this administration. Because while I am not sure that Trump is going to be able to walk away, on the first day or force a negotiation or any of the other things he's going to do. He's just going to tweak everyone's balls to try to look like a big dude. But like, we need to give the Ukrainians everything they can because they can win if we help them. And the Europeans, while there is a big divide in Europe and it's not a fair unitary term anymore, in general, the Europeans do not have the defense capability to take our place right now. And none of us, including the United States, are making enough munitions and enough weapons given the likely challenges we are going to face in the next decade.